He told me I was the best thing that ever happened to him. Then I heard him say he only stayed for my family's money. I was frozen on the stairs, listening to my husband destroy our marriage with one cruel sentence. But what I did next, he never saw it coming. Stay until the end, because this isn't just a betrayal story. It's about taking your power back. I wake up every day regretting my decision. If it wasn't for her family's money, I'd be gone already. Those were the exact words I heard my husband, say on the phone before he even knew I was home. We had just celebrated our 3-year anniversary the week before. He had cried during his vows. Told me I was the best thing that had ever happened to him. And now here I was, frozen on the stairs, listening to him trash our marriage like it was some kind of prison sentence he'd signed up for out of greed. I didn't say anything. I didn't storm in or throw the nachos I'd picked up for him across the room like in the movies. I just stood there quietly for a moment, absorbing every word. Then I slowly walked back down the stairs, picked up the food, went out the same way I came in, and drove around for a while. I returned home later, at the time I was supposed to get back. I walked in, gave him a kiss like nothing had happened, and told him I missed him. He smiled, said he missed me too. Like he hadn't just revealed that everything we had might be a lie. That was 5 days ago. Today, he called me 27 times in 1 hour, because he finally figured it out. He knows I heard him, and now he's panicking. I don't even know where to start. My hands are shaking just typing this. I've deleted and rewritten this post at least 7 times. Everyone's asleep in the house right now. I'm sitting on the cold bathroom floor with the shower running, not because I'm bathing, but so Connor doesn't hear me crying. We've been married for 3 years. I thought I knew him. He always seemed so real, so grounded, especially compared to the guys my family usually introduced me to. My family isn't outrageously wealthy, but we're comfortable. I've never had to worry about bills or whether a check will bounce. Connor grew up middle class. He always said he admired my independence, loved that I wasn't stuck up like other girls from my world. Last weekend, we renewed our vows. Just a small ceremony with close friends and family. He wept reading his vows, told me I was his home, his peace, his everything. And then I went on a girls' trip. It was supposed to be amazing. Nashville with my 3 college besties, Scarlett, Tina, and Jules. Spa days, wine tours, rooftop bars. But by day 2, everything started falling apart. Scarlett got food poisoning from that sketchy hot chicken place, and Tina had to deal with a work emergency. We were all exhausted and decided to cut the trip short. I thought, hey, perfect chance to surprise Connor. He's always texting me sweet things when I'm away. Wish you were here, complete with a pouty selfie. So I took the early flight home. I stopped by his favorite little dive place and picked up his beloved nachos. Even grabbed a few cans of that craft beer he's been raving about for weeks. I was buzzing with excitement, imagining the look on his face when he saw me. I came in through the garage, used my code so he wouldn't hear me. The layout of our house is weird. You can't see into the living room from the entryway, and I heard his voice upstairs. He was in his gaming room, on the phone, so I tiptoed up, food still in hand, ready to surprise him. And that's when I heard it. Marriage is a complete nightmare, bro. I wake up every day regretting my decision. If it wasn't for her family's money, I'd be gone already. I just stopped, and everything inside me cracked. I froze on the stairs. My heart didn't just skip a beat. It felt like it stopped completely. For a moment, I told myself maybe he was just joking, venting to a friend, being overly dramatic like guys sometimes are. I waited for the laugh, but it didn't come. If it wasn't for her family's money, I'd be gone already. The only good thing about this whole situation is I don't have to worry about rent or bills anymore. I could physically feel my heart breaking in that moment. It was like hearing someone twist the knife in a wound I didn't even know I had. And then came the part that really gutted me. The vow renewal thing last weekend? Pure torture, man. Had to stand there making up all this romantic bullshit while her family looked on all misty-eyed. I've gotten good at the performance, though. Oscar-worthy. He actually laughed. But hey, small price to pay for the lifestyle, right? Her dad's talking about bringing me into the family business next year. Once I'm established there, I'll have options. More options than just being the money wife's husband. The money wife. That's what he calls me. That's what I am to him. 3 years of marriage, of sharing a life, a home, a future, and I'm just a financial convenience. A stepping stone. I don't know how I did it, but I quietly backed down the stairs, picked up the food and beer I'd gotten him as a surprise, and slipped out the front door like a ghost. I sat in my car for almost 2 hours, sobbing like my entire body was splitting in half. My mascara was a mess. My shirt had tears soaked through it, and at one point, this sweet old lady tapped on my window to ask if I needed help. I told her my dog died. The first of many lies I told that day. I returned the nachos and beer, told the cashier my husband wasn't feeling well. Then I texted the girls that I decided to get a hotel near the airport to get ahead on some emails and fly back to Nashville in the morning. The next day, I drove aimlessly for hours, trying to make sense of everything. Every single memory, every romantic moment, every soft kiss, every sweet word, it all started playing back through this new filter, the filter of use, of manipulation, of knowing I was nothing more than a paycheck and a dress. How he insisted on paying for dinner, only when it was somewhere cheap. how he made such a show about not wanting my help with his student loans until I practically forced him to let me help. How his dreams were always just big enough to talk about, but never real enough to act on, until my dad offered him connections. And the kicker? The sign his parents gave us for our anniversary? Where your story begins. I stared at it this morning while sipping coffee, thinking we were about to start a new chapter. Turns out, for him, our story was a business deal from the start, a financial arrangement with a side of vows. I went back to Nashville. I spent 3 days pretending everything was fine, smiling through brunch, nodding through wine tastings, laughing at jokes I didn't hear because all I could think about was Connor, and how the man I loved, the man I built my life with, saw me as a trap he willingly walked into. Then I came home at the time I was supposed to, greeted him with a kiss, looked him in the eye, the same eyes that cried reading vows just days earlier, and kissed him like nothing had happened. And now I've been living this lie for 5 days. 5 days of sleeping next to someone who, by his own words, regrets waking up next to me. 5 days of watching his every move, every smile, every touch, wondering what's real and what's part of his Oscar-worthy performance. And now I've started checking our accounts, quietly, carefully. Turns out he's been withdrawing small amounts. Nothing huge, nothing that would trigger a conversation. $200 here, $300 there, always just under the threshold we agreed would require checking in with each other. Where is that money going? What is he preparing for? Has he been saving up for his exit plan? While lying beside me each night? Does he have someone else? Oh God. What if he does? What if there's another woman? Someone who knows exactly who I am to him? Just the money wife. Do they joke about me together? Laugh about how easy it was to play me? I haven't told anyone. Not my friends. Definitely not my family. Especially not my dad. He adores Connor, calls him the son he never had. Always talks about how lucky he feels to have him in the family. If he knew Connor only saw him as a stepping stone, a business connection, a meal ticket, it would destroy him. And I just can't be the one to hand him that heartbreak. Not yet. So I've started making quiet moves. Yesterday, I accidentally left open a browser tab showing my separate bank account, the one Connor doesn't know about. This morning, I casually mentioned that my dad might be pulling back from some of his ventures because of economic uncertainty. I've been working late, being just a little colder, a little more distant. I take phone calls behind closed doors. I stop telling him when I'll be home. The bathroom sink has been leaking for weeks. Connor kept saying he'd fix it this weekend, over and over. Last night, I just called a plumber. Didn't ask, didn't warn him. When the guy showed up, Connor looked so thrown off. I shrugged and said, "You seemed busy with other things." The fix took 10 minutes and cost $85. I could see Connor doing the math in his head, calculating the waste. It's working. He's getting nervous. This afternoon, while I was running errands, he called me 27 times, in 1 hour. When I finally called him back, he sounded panicked, asking if everything was okay, if I was upset, if something had happened with my family. I played it calm, said my phone was in my purse while I was at Target, said everything was fine. Then I asked why he'd think otherwise. The silence on his end was heavy. Locked in the bathroom with the shower running, trying to think clearly, trying not to let the weight of this crush me. I know I need to confront him eventually, but not yet. I need to be smart. Everything is tangled. Joint accounts, shared assets, his name on the deed. I messed up, giving him that much power. So now I'm working on untangling it. Quietly, carefully. Part of me wants to scream, to rage, to throw the truth in his face and watch it hit him like a freight train. But a bigger part of me knows I need to be strategic. What if I slowly withdraw emotionally and financially while I document everything? What if I let him believe things are fine until it's very, very clear they're not? He lied to me for 3 years. I think I can manage a few weeks of the same. I have to go. The hot water is probably running out, and Connor will wonder why I've been in the shower for 45 minutes. So I'll dry my face, unlock the door, and go kiss my husband goodnight, while silently planning my exit. Edit. Connor just texted me asking if I want to go away for the weekend to reconnect. The audacity of this man. We'll update when I can. First update. First, thank you all for the overwhelming support on my last post. I read every single comment, and you gave me the strength to get through the past 2 weeks without completely falling apart. Sorry for the delay in updating. I've been extra cautious with everything, especially my online activity, since Connor suddenly developed this new, suspicious habit of casually glancing at my phone every time it's nearby. He never used to do that. But now, it's like he's trying to read something in my face, my texts, my silence. He knows something's off. He just doesn't know what. It's been 14 days since I overheard my husband of 3 years tell his friend that our marriage is a nightmare and that I'm just his meal ticket. 14 days of pretending, 14 days of smiling, kissing, and laying next to a man who openly said he regrets waking up beside me every morning. 14 days of the most emotionally draining performance of my life. The day after my last post, I made a decision. I wasn't going to react emotionally. No big dramatic confrontation, not yet. If I was going to walk away from this, I was going to do it smart. So I made a list. I always make lists when I'm stressed. It calms me, gives me structure. Here's what it looked like. Secure my financial independence. Gather evidence, not for court, just for when my family starts asking why I walked away from their golden boy. Figure out the true extent of his lies. Build an exit strategy. Start quietly building a support system without giving too much away. First step, I called my personal bank, the one Connor doesn't have access to, and upgraded every possible layer of security. New passwords, verbal confirmation, a note in my file not to disclose anything to anyone but me. Then I started transferring small amounts from our joint account into mine. Nothing massive, nothing dramatic, just a little bit at a time, enough to avoid suspicion. Is that wrong? Maybe. But learning your husband is a manipulative liar who sees you as a financial plan really redefines your idea of fairness. Then came the weekend reconnection trip. Connor's idea. I agreed, but suggested we go to my family's rustic lake cabin instead of the luxury resort he originally had in mind. The look on his face, y'all. It was just a flicker, but I caught it. A flash of disappointment before he quickly recovered with a fake smile and a, whatever makes you happy, babe. And suddenly, everything made sense. How he always pushed for the expensive options when my family was paying, but suddenly became budget conscious when it was coming out of our pocket. The cabin ended up revealing way more than I expected. We barely have functioning Wi-Fi out there, and Connor was miserable. Spent most of the weekend glued to his phone, wandering around trying to get signal. He kept walking down to the end of the dock where, if you stand in exactly the right spot, you can maybe get 1 bar. I followed him once, quietly, and I heard him. He was on the phone with someone, his voice low and frustrated. "I'm going crazy being trapped out here. I'll make it up to you when I get back." Make it up to who? Make what up? Who was he calling from the end of the dock, whispering into the wind? And just like that, my list got longer. Who was he talking to on that dock? And what exactly did he plan to make up to them? That question hasn't left my mind since we got back from the cabin. We pulled into the driveway on Sunday night, and within minutes, Connor said he needed to run to Walmart for some stuff for work. Walmart is 12 minutes from our house. He was gone for over 2 hours. Later, I checked the credit card app. No charges from Walmart, but there was a $60 charge from a bar across town. A bar. At 9:17 p.m. That same trip, I had casually and strategically mentioned that my dad was thinking about early retirement due to made-up health concerns, and that he might be scaling back business operations. It was a lie, of course, but I needed to see his reaction. And oh, did I. He spent the next hour grilling me about the family business. Not a single follow-up about Dad's health. No, is he okay? Or does he need anything? Just questions like, so what does this mean for the trust? And will that change our future plans? He didn't even notice the trap he was walking into. It was like watching someone peel off their mask without realizing it. That night, I started digging into our finances more seriously. I combed through old statements, flagged patterns, cross-referenced timelines. What I found made my stomach turn. Over the last 3 years, Connor has quietly withdrawn nearly $17,000 from our joint accounts, labeled as business expenses and investments. No returns, no explanations, no paperwork, just money, gone. And worse, there's a pattern. Large cash withdrawals right before he visits his hometown, always just days before, always just under amounts that would trigger red flags. He's been supporting something, or someone there. Last week, while he was at the gym, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through his nightstand, and there it was, a second phone. One of those cheap prepaid burners you can grab at Target. It was locked, but classic Connor, he'd scribbled the code on a sticky note and stuck it to the back. Inside, only one contact, D. Dozens of texts, arranging meetups, talking about money, referring to the long-term plan, and staying the course. One text, dated 3 months ago, stopped me cold. Just 2 more years and we're set. 2 more years? Until what? Until he leaves? Until he gets my father's full trust access? Until some shared scheme with D comes together? I took photos of everything, every message, every detail, then put the phone back exactly as I found it. And now, psychological warfare, that's the only way to describe it. I've been subtly shifting my behavior, nothing overt, just enough to make him wonder. Less affection, more private phone calls, the occasional mention of chatting with our family lawyer, things that seem off, but not off enough to confront. And he's spiraling. 2 nights ago, I noticed my boots were out of order. I arranged them a certain way. Yes, I'm that person. And Connor? He never touches them, until that night. He must have gone through my closet while I was in the shower. I didn't say a word. I just quietly rearranged them in front of him while he sat on the bed pretending to scroll through his phone. Yesterday, I caught him scrolling through my iPad search history while I was making dinner. I'd left it open on purpose, with searches like signs your husband is cheating and how to open a bank account your spouse can't access. When I walked in, he practically threw the iPad onto the couch and started rambling about how much he loved the lasagna I was making. Except, I was making stir-fry. He didn't even notice. The fridge has been making this weird clicking noise for months. He's always promised to fix it. He won't. And I won't remind him this time. Because now I know exactly what kind of man he really is. And while he's trying to keep up appearances, I'm quietly taking back control of my life. One list, one lie, one step at a time. Yesterday, I casually said maybe it was time to just buy a new fridge, offhand, like I didn't even care. And suddenly, Connor became Mr. Fix-It. He spent 2 full hours taking it apart, checking the coils, adjusting God knows what. And now, the bathroom door that's been squeaking since last Christmas, fixed. The porch light that's been out for months, replaced. The wobbly kitchen table, suddenly stable. It's like watching someone desperately audition for a role they already lost. Like he knows the walls are closing in, and he's trying to prove his value before the axe falls. Meanwhile, I've started having lunch once a week with Loretta, my best friend since college and the only person who knows everything. At first, she was stunned, then furious. Now, she's my co-conspirator, my safe space, my strategist. She helped me set up a separate email account Connor doesn't know about, and she's the one who suggested I start documenting everything. Texts, receipts, screenshots, all of it. Last Wednesday, I was working late. In reality, I was sitting in a corner booth at Starbucks with my laptop open, scrolling through /r/surviving infidelity and highlighting posts like I was prepping for a final exam. And then, Connor showed up, with dinner. He's never done that. Not once in 3 years of marriage, he claimed he missed me. Sweet, right? But then he spent the entire dinner picking apart a call he'd overheard earlier. I'd said something to Loretta about making big changes, and he latched onto that phrase like a lifeline. The call was literally about possibly repainting the guest bedroom. But of course, he doesn't need to know that. Then came the moment. The 27 missed calls I mentioned in my last post. I now realize what triggered them. That morning, I'd left some printouts on my desk, records from our joint account, highlighting Connor's suspicious withdrawals over the past year. I didn't confront him, I didn't even mention them, but when I got home that night, the papers were out of place. He'd seen them, panicked, and that's why he blew up my phone while I was in meetings. When I finally called him back after the 27th missed call, the conversation went exactly like this. Me. Hey, what's the emergency? My phone was in my desk during meetings. Connor, breathing hard. No emergency. Just, is everything okay with you? With us? Me. Why wouldn't it be? Connor. I don't know, you've just seemed different since you got back from Nashville. You're distant, taking private calls. And you mentioned your dad reconsidering his business plans. I'm worried about you. There it was. Slipping his concern for my father's business right in between 2 fake lines of concern for me. Classic Connor, always turning the conversation toward what matters to him. And I never used to see it. Me, everything's fine, just busy with work. Why would anything be wrong? There was this long pause. So long I thought the call had dropped. Connor, no reason. I just love you, that's all. Me, I love you too. The biggest lie I've ever told. When we hung up, I didn't even go inside right away. I just sat in my car, staring out the windshield, crying so quietly I barely noticed. Not because I was heartbroken over the end of the marriage, but because I was mourning the version of it I thought I had. The love I believed in. The man I thought he was. That relationship doesn't exist, maybe it never did. The Connor I fell in love with, he doesn't exist. He's a carefully curated character, performed with just enough charm, just enough vulnerability, just enough effort to make me believe I was chosen, cherished, safe. But underneath it all, he sees me as a bank account with a body attached. Last night, he suggested we have another vow renewal ceremony. This time for our parents, the ones who couldn't make it to the first one 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks. When I asked casually why the sudden interest in renewing vows again, he stammered something about celebrating our love with everyone important to us. Translation, he's panicking. He sees the cracks forming, feels the foundation slipping, and wants to anchor himself deeper into my family before the house falls. I smiled and said, maybe next year. The visible relief on his face said everything. What he doesn't know is that I've already spoken to a lawyer. Not our family lawyer, of course, someone completely outside our social and financial circles. Loretta recommended her. Discreet, brilliant, and entirely unaffiliated. We have a meeting scheduled next week to review my options. I've documented everything, every financial discrepancy, every questionable transaction, every withdrawal he couldn't explain. I've also moved my most important documents, birth certificate, passport, trust paperwork, and a few irreplaceable heirlooms out of the house under the guise of helping a friend style a vintage Instagram shoot. Another lie, yes, but I've learned from the master. Then something strange happened this morning. I was in the bathroom getting ready for work when Connor came up behind me, hugged me tightly, and started crying. Actual tears. He whispered that he felt like he was losing me and didn't know why. For a second, I almost lost it, almost let it all come flooding out. But then I remembered that conversation, the one I overheard, his laughter, his comment about his Oscar-worthy performance. So instead, I just patted his arm and murmured, everything's fine, just work stress. And like flipping a switch, the tears vanished the moment I mentioned that we might need to postpone our trip to New York next month, the one where we were supposed to stay at that five-star hotel his influencer friend raved about. Funny, isn't it? His emotional crisis dried up at the mention of losing luxury. The confrontation is coming. I'm almost ready. But I want him to sweat a little longer. I want him to feel the tension, the confusion, the subtle unraveling of control. Just a fraction of what I've felt. Is it petty? Maybe. But when someone takes a sledgehammer to your entire reality, I think a little pettiness is well earned. Edit. To those asking, no, we don't have kids. Thank God. Connor always said he wanted to wait until we were more established. I see now that what he meant was until I've secured enough to walk away with half. Also, he just texted asking if we can have dinner at my parents' house this weekend. Says he misses them. I bet he does. Second update. Hey y'all. It's been about a month since my last update, and so much has happened. First, thank you for the support, the comments, the DMs. I've read every single one, even the ones questioning my methods. And to be honest, I've questioned them too, every step of the way. So picking up where we left off, after discovering that Connor had been secretly draining our joint accounts, supporting something or someone behind my back, and sticking around purely for my family's money, I spent the last few weeks quietly building my exit strategy. I was planning to confront him once everything was in place. But life had other plans. Remember that dinner Connor insisted we have at my parents' house? Yeah, we went, and it was enlightening. Connor was in full charm overdrive at dinner with my parents, gushing over my mom's new curtains, asking my dad way too specific questions about his golf game, even offering to help my sister set up her new Sonos, like he suddenly cared about smart speakers. To anyone watching, he looked like the ideal son-in-law. But now that I know what to look for, I can see it all. The subtle positioning, the rehearsed compliments, the manipulation masked as warmth. Every move had intention behind it. And then, in the middle of dinner, he dropped it. I've actually been looking into investment properties in this neighborhood. Seems like a great long-term play. My dad, sweet, trusting, lit up and started talking about how property values in the area were expected to rise 20% over the next 5 years. And Connor's eyes? They sparked. I'm not exaggerating. It was like watching a slot machine hit triple sevens. He leaned in, nodding like he was already picturing himself cashing in on the family legacy. That night, after we got home, I found him on the iPad browsing listings, way out of our budget. When I gently asked how we'd afford those, he smiled and said, "Well, your dad did mention helping with the down payment." He didn't, not even close. The next morning, I met with the lawyer Loretta recommended, and she was a godsend, calm, no nonsense, and brutally clear about what I was entitled to, and what Connor might try to twist. The prenup does offer some protection. Not as airtight as I would like, but solid enough to give me leverage. And the best part? The financial forensics we'd begun to collect, his pattern of deception, unexplained withdrawals, the secret phone, could potentially invalidate parts of the prenup. While I was at that meeting, Connor was apparently unraveling. I'd accidentally left my laptop open that morning with a browser tab showing flights to my cousins in California, just one piece of my quiet exit plan. When I got home that night, the house was set like a rom-com proposal scene. Candles, wine, my favorite meal. He even folded the napkins. He was all smiles, but beneath it, desperation. His hands were shaking as he poured the wine. He kept looking at me like he was trying to read something on my face. Then came the performance. He launched into this rambling monologue about how much he loves our life together. Not the lifestyle. You, specifically you, he said, practically tripping over the words. He kept repeating how he'd never been happier, and then he dropped the real bomb. I think we should start trying for a baby, like, now. This, from the man who's dodged the topic for 3 years. I nearly choked on my wine. I asked, very carefully, why the sudden change of heart? And what followed was pure theater. He gave a speech about realizing what truly matters, how he wanted to stop waiting for the perfect time, and how becoming a father with me would be the greatest gift. He even got misty-eyed. Oscar-worthy, truly. I smiled and said, that's quite a coincidence, because I've been doing a lot of thinking about our future too. The hope that flared in his eyes, so genuine, it almost made me pity him. Almost. I continued, in fact, I've been reflecting a lot on our relationship since I got back from Nashville. Hope gone. Instantly. His face paled so fast I thought he might faint. He lunged for his wine glass and nearly knocked it over. He croaked, what kind of reflections? And that's when I started laying cards on the table. Not all of them, just enough to make him squirm. I said, I've been thinking a lot about honesty, about what people say they want versus what they actually want, and what it means when those two things don't align in a marriage. He froze. I watched his jaw clench, his throat bob as he swallowed hard, and for the first time in this entire twisted, unraveling saga, I saw fear in his eyes. Not concern, not guilt, fear. And I wasn't done yet. He asked what I meant, and instead of answering directly, I looked him in the eye and asked, do you remember what you said in your vows during our renewal ceremony? About how meeting me was the best thing that ever happened to you? He nodded, tried to smile, but it came out as more of a twitch. Do you still mean it? I asked. Of course I do, he said quickly, reaching across the table for my hand. I meant every word. I pulled my hand away, slowly. That's interesting, I said, my voice calm, almost curious. Because I could have sworn I heard you tell Danny that the vow renewal was pure torture, and you had to make up a bunch of romantic bullshit while my family looked on. The color drained from his face in real time. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing, just pure panic. I didn't give him the chance to gather his thoughts. I continued, voice still level. Or maybe I misheard. Maybe you didn't call our marriage a nightmare. Maybe I imagined the part where you said you wake up every day regretting your decision. Connor's hand trembled as he reached for his wine glass, only to knock it over, red wine bleeding across the white tablecloth like some kind of visual metaphor. He didn't even try to clean it up. Maybe, I said, leaning forward slightly, I just hallucinated the part where you said the only good thing about our relationship is my family's money. His voice finally came, broken and small. When did you hear that? When I came home early from Nashville, to surprise you. Surprise, baby, he said weakly, shifting into that smooth, condescending tone he always used when he thought I was being too emotional. You completely misunderstood. I was just venting to Danny about a rough patch. Everyone says things they don't mean when they're frustrated. A rough patch? I repeated. Interesting. And which part did I misunderstand exactly? The part where you called me the money wife, or the part where you said you were only sticking around until you were established enough to have options? His complexion shifted from pale to gray, that sick kind of realization settling in that I'd heard everything. It was taken completely out of context, he stammered. I tilted my head. Then please, Connor, explain the context in which calling our marriage a nightmare and saying you're only with me for financial gain makes sense. He couldn't, of course. So instead, he changed tactics. Denial became remorse in record time. His eyes filled with tears. He clasped his hands like he was praying. He launched into a rambling apology, claiming he'd been going through a personal crisis when I overheard him. That he didn't mean any of it. That I was everything to him. That he loved me more than anything. I just watched him. Observed. Because now I saw it all for what it was. The sincere glances. The emotional vulnerability. The sudden tears. They weren't real. They were moves in a carefully rehearsed script. Just different acts in the same con. Are you leaving me? He finally asked, eyes wide and glossy. I haven't decided yet, I lied. I had decided. I decided the moment I heard him say those words to Danny. But he didn't need to know that yet. What followed were the most emotionally exhausting 2 weeks of my life. Connor went full scorched earth desperation mode. He sent flowers to my office every single day, with cards that ranged from pitiful to guilt-tripping to poetic. He called my parents, telling them he was worried about me, about my emotional state, because I'd been acting strange and was withdrawing from everyone. He suggested couples therapy, from the man who called our marriage a nightmare. He even reached out to Loretta, my ride or die, my co-strategist. He tried to charm her, to convince her to talk some sense into me. She forwarded the entire message chain to me, said, he's panicking, let him sweat. And that's exactly what I'm doing. The most telling part of Connor's desperate campaign to save our marriage? He never once mentioned money. Not my family's financial standing, not his future business opportunities, not the trust he's always danced around. It was like he was carefully avoiding the very subject that had driven everything. The very reason he married me in the first place. Almost like saying it out loud would shatter whatever performance he was still trying to hold together. Meanwhile, I stayed the course. Quietly, methodically. I moved the last of the funds from our joint accounts into my secured personal ones. I spoke with my family's financial advisor and locked down anything Connor could potentially access or even claim proximity to. Every account, every asset, every legal pathway that might have once been vulnerable. Sealed. I packed a go-bag of essentials and every irreplaceable item, family heirlooms, birth certificates, sentimental things Connor wouldn't even notice were gone, and moved them to a storage unit he knows nothing about. And then I did the hardest thing yet. I sat my parents down and told them the truth. My dad, who's always called Connor the son I never had, looked like I'd reached across the table and punched him. My mom kept blinking like she couldn't process what I was saying. She'd adored Connor. She thought he made me happy, safe, fulfilled. She'd trusted him. We all had. Telling them that the man they'd welcomed into our lives was a fraud, that he had never loved me. Just our name, our resources, our doors. I could barely get the words out. My dad immediately wanted to confront him. Said something about dragging his sorry ass into the backyard. But I asked them for patience. I begged them to let me handle this, to let me finish it my way. And they agreed. Reluctantly, but they did. 3 days ago, the dishwasher broke down. Of course, perfect timing. Normally, Connor would groan about the cost of repairs, suggest just doing it by hand, and stall for a month. But this time, he immediately volunteered to handle it. I said, Maybe we should just buy a new one. He agreed, without asking the price. That's how I know he's terrified. He's trying so hard to appear unbothered by money now, like he's suddenly the laid-back, no-strings husband I deserve. Last night we went to a dinner party at Scarlett's new house. Connor's always said Scarlett was a bit much because of her blunt honesty and oversized personality, his words. But last night, he was practically her fan club president, laughing at her jokes, complimenting her outfit, gushing over her TikTok dances that he once called embarrassing at her age. It was embarrassing to watch. Then halfway through dinner, Lucas, Scarlett's boyfriend who knows nothing about my situation, brought up a news story he'd read about a guy who scammed his wealthy wife for years. Said the guy thought he was playing the long game, but ended up with nothing. Everyone at the table laughed, everyone except Connor. He suddenly became very interested in his mashed potatoes. Lucas, oblivious, looked up and said, "What do you think, man? Think a guy like that really thought he could get away with it?" Connor didn't even look up. He muttered, "Not all relationships are what they seem on the surface." Silence. Absolute silence. I could feel Scarlett's eyes on me. Confused, tense. The energy shifted instantly. I just smiled, cool and collected, and asked her to pass the salt. The car ride home was quiet. Connor didn't say a word, but when we pulled into the garage, he turned off the engine, turned to me with this haunted, desperate look and said, "Is everything really okay between us?" I met his eyes without blinking. "I don't know what you mean," I said. He ran a hand through his hair. "I don't know. It just feels like something's wrong. Something's been off for weeks. I can't shake it. It's like something's, I don't know, terribly wrong." I leaned in just slightly, met him eye to eye, calm, steady. "Maybe," I said. "You should check your conscience. If you're feeling like something's wrong." He flinched, literally flinched, like I'd slapped him across the face. And I just opened the car door and walked inside. Quiet, graceful, in control. And for the first time in this entire nightmare, I felt powerful. Last update, hey Reddit family. Before I get into it, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to every single one of you who commented, messaged, supported, or simply read my posts and sent strength my way. You helped me stay grounded. You helped me remember I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't alone, that I wasn't overreacting. I promised you a final update once everything was settled, and here it is. This is the conclusion to my story. The meeting with my parents and our financial advisor took place yesterday at 10 a.m. sharp, and just like I'd hoped and feared, it went exactly according to plan. We met in my dad's home office. It was me, Connor, both my parents, and Mr. Bradshaw, our family's financial advisor since I was in braces and struggling with geometry. Connor walked in smiling, confident, his entire energy just radiating. "I've got this." I could see it on his face. He really thought this meeting was his opportunity to further integrate himself into the family's wealth. Dad started things off in his usual warm but serious tone. He looked Connor in the eye and said, "Before we get into the details, is there anything you'd like to tell us?" Connor looked confused just for a moment. Then he laughed lightly, shrugged, and said, "No, everything's great. I'm just excited about the future." Dad nodded, then calmly reached into a drawer and pulled out a folder. Inside were printed copies of the records I'd compiled over the last month. Screenshots of Connor's secret withdrawals, notes about the second phone, printouts of texts referencing his long-term plan and just 2 more years, a financial map showing a very clear trail of deception. Connor went completely still, his jaw locked. His eyes jumped from page to page as Dad slid them across the desk one by one. Mr. Bradshaw, who's seen a lot over the years but rarely speaks unless necessary, cleared his throat and said, "As of today, Connor, you are being removed as a beneficiary from all family-related trusts, accounts, and holdings, permanently." Connor started to protest, stammered something about miscommunication and stress, and, "You don't understand." That's when I spoke, calm, clear. "I've understood for a while now, Connor. I heard everything. Nashville, Danny, the real reason you married me, the names you called me, the plan you had. I know it all." He froze, fully, completely froze. My dad leaned forward and said, "You could have had a family, son, a real one, but you chose the lie instead." Connor stood there for a few more seconds, lips parted, but no words came. And then he left. He walked out of the room, out of the house, and so far, out of my life. I spent the rest of the day finalizing paperwork with Mr. Bradshaw, updating my accounts, and beginning the process of filing for divorce. I slept better last night than I have in months. To those of you wondering, no, he hasn't texted. Not since the meeting. The silence is almost eerie, but also, somehow, peaceful. This morning I brewed coffee, opened the curtains, and felt something I haven't felt in a long time. Lightness. I'm free. And to anyone reading this who's going through something similar, trust your gut. Gather your strength. Make your plan. You are smarter than the lie. You are stronger than the performance. And when the curtain finally falls, you'll be the one standing. screenshots of the text messages to D about the long-term plan, a list of unexplained withdrawals from our accounts, and the coup de grace, a transcript of the phone call I overheard, the one where he called our marriage a nightmare. Y'all should have seen Connor's face. It was like watching someone's entire reality collapse in real time. He went from confused to shocked to panicked to calculating in under 10 seconds. At first, he scrambled to reclaim control, said it was all a misunderstanding, that he'd been going through a rough patch, and that he said things he didn't mean. That's when my mom, who had been silent, teeth clenched, and hands folded since the start of the meeting, finally snapped. She turned to him, and with a look I've only seen once before, when my brother wrecked her vintage car in high school, said, "You're a gold-digging parasite. I have never been so disappointed in my judgment of someone's character." Connor had the audacity to appeal to her, like they had some special bond. He said, "You know the real me?" Mom actually laughed. "Which version is the real you?" she asked. "The one who called your marriage a nightmare? Or the one who cried like a Broadway actor during your vow renewal?" That shut him up. Mr. Bradshaw wrapped up the meeting by formally explaining that Connor had been completely removed from all family accounts, trusts, and business interests, effective immediately. Then my dad, calm, composed, told Connor that divorce papers would be delivered to him that afternoon and that he had 24 hours to remove his personal belongings from the house. Connor's last card was the tears, real ones. He's gotten good at that. He turned to me, voice trembling, and said, "Are you really going to throw away 3 years of marriage over one stupid conversation?" I looked him directly in the eyes and said, "I'm not throwing anything away. You did that when you decided I was just a meal ticket." The divorce process itself? Surprisingly smooth. When you have overwhelming evidence that someone entered into marriage under fraudulent pretenses and the legal firepower to back it up, things move quickly. Connor fought, of course, claimed he was owed half of everything, including future interest in my family's business. His initial demands were so outrageous that even his own lawyer looked uncomfortable. But once my legal team presented the full case, the financial records, the hidden accounts, the recordings of him admitting he married me for money, he folded. Fast. He walked away with far less than he thought he'd get, though, in my opinion, still more than he deserved. The most satisfying moment? During our final mediation session, Connor's lawyer tried one last time to argue that he had made significant contributions to my career and supported my family's business. My attorney calmly pulled out a tablet and played the audio. "Being her husband is my meal ticket. She's the money wife." That was it. That was the moment. Connor's shoulders slumped. His eyes dropped. His own words had destroyed whatever leverage he thought he had. Priceless. It's been 6 months now, and let me tell you, this journey has been a full-on emotional roller coaster. There have been days where I felt strong, capable, in control. And there have been nights where I questioned everything. How I didn't see the signs, how I let myself be used, how I let someone stand beside me and lie so convincingly. But I'm coming out the other side now. Lighter, wiser, free. The house feels different, quieter, but not in a lonely way. More like peaceful, honest, mine. I'm reclaiming my life, my space, my self-worth. And for the first time in a long time, I feel whole. Thank you all. For reading, for supporting, for reminding me I wasn't crazy. You helped carry me through this. I'll never forget that. The first few weeks after the confrontation were, without question, the hardest. I cycled through a mess of emotions, rage, grief, humiliation, and a suffocating kind of self-doubt that made me question everything about myself. How could I have been so blind? How did I miss all the signs? Was I that easy to manipulate? Enter therapy. Yes, I found an excellent therapist, and honestly, it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. She helped me dismantle the idea that Connor's deception worked because I was stupid or naive. It didn't. It worked because he was calculated, methodical, and dangerously good at playing the long game. She reminded me, trusting someone isn't a weakness. The failure isn't in giving trust. It's in breaking it. I moved out of the house even before we listed it. There were just too many memories, too many echoes of moments that now felt like lies. I found a small apartment downtown. Nothing extravagant, just cozy, clean, mine. It's filled with things I love. Warm light, a velvet couch I didn't have to get anyone's opinion on, bold art that Connor would have said was too loud. That first night in my new place was hard. I'd been so caught up in the logistics, setting up utilities, changing my Amazon address, organizing my chaotic drawer of kitchen gadgets, that I forgot about the emotional part. The moment when you close the door, sit on your new floor, and feel completely, undeniably alone. But here's the surprising part. It didn't take long before I started to feel free. I've been rediscovering parts of myself that slowly eroded during my marriage, like how Connor used to say my laugh was too loud in public. Kind of obnoxious, he called it. Last week, I snorted, laughing at a TikTok while standing in line at Starbucks, and didn't even think to apologize. Baby steps, right? My relationship with my parents has deepened in ways I didn't expect. My dad, stoic, composed, old school, apologized to me. He said he felt like growing up with wealth had made me a target, and that he should have prepared me better for people who see status before soul. It was the most raw, vulnerable conversation we've ever had. I'll never forget it. My mom, she's gone full mama bear. She checks in daily, sends me articles titled things like 10 signs that man is after your money and how to spot a gold digger before it's too late. It's a bit much, but I love her for it. She's also tried setting me up on 3 blind dates with men she's personally vetted for financial independence and family values. I've politely declined. I'm nowhere near ready to date again, but her heart's in the right place. My friends have been amazing. Loretta, of course, has been my rock through all of this. Scarlett, too, always showing up when I least expect it with takeout and sarcastic jokes that hit exactly where I need them to. Tina, not so much. She sided with Connor at first. They were friends before he and I ever met, and she believed his version of things. Said I was being dramatic. That hurt. But I've come to accept that some people don't want to see behind the mask. The weirdest part? Running into people who don't know the whole story. Just last week, I bumped into Danny. Yes, that Danny. The one on the other end of Connor's marriage is a nightmare phone call. We crossed paths in Target. He gave me this awkward half wave and then immediately pretended to be fascinated by a display of paper towels. I stood there for a second, just watching him, and I felt nothing. No rage, no anxiety. Just an overwhelming sense of closure. He can keep pretending. They all can. I've stopped. I'm not defined by what happened. I'm not broken. I'm rebuilding, and I'm starting to like the woman emerging from the rubble. I just smiled and kept walking. Danny could believe whatever version of the story Connor fed him. I'm done trying to control the narrative for people who never truly saw me in the first place. Later, as I was loading groceries into my car, I caught him watching me from across the parking lot. His expression said it all. Whatever Connor told him, it clearly painted me as the villain, but I didn't feel the need to correct it. I don't have the energy to care what Connor's bros think anymore. And speaking of Connor, he showed up at my apartment last month, completely unannounced. Said he just wanted to talk, to explain himself. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You had 3 years to be honest with me. I'm not interested in whatever version of the story you've crafted now." He tried to hand me a letter. I refused, so of course he left it in my mailbox anyway. For a moment, I considered burning it. Symbolic, cathartic, but curiosity won out. I read it. It was pathetic. A strange cocktail of apology and justification. He claimed he'd truly grown to love me, despite how things started. Said he regretted his words to Danny and missed us and the life we built together. I read it once, then shredded it. No response, no second chances. His words have no power over me anymore. According to Loretta's cousin, who works at that upscale steakhouse downtown, Connor is now dating the daughter of one of my dad's business associates. She's been warned, of course, multiple times. But apparently she's convinced that Connor is misunderstood and that I clearly did something to provoke him. Some lessons have to be learned firsthand, I guess. Meanwhile, I've gotten really into cooking, something I never got to do much of during my marriage because Connor always dominated the kitchen. Last night, I made mushroom risotto from scratch, and it was actually delicious. Real progress. Do I still have bad days? Absolutely. Sometimes I wake up angry, furious, that I gave 3 years of my life to someone who saw me as a stepping stone in designer heels. Sometimes I worry that I'll never trust anyone romantically again. Sometimes I catch myself replaying conversations, hunting for signs I should have seen. But then I breathe and remember where I am now. The divorce was finalized last month, 47 days faster than the county average. The house sold quickly. I used my portion to finally pay off those old student loans I'd been carrying around like emotional baggage and invested the rest. Connor tried one final act during the last hearing, claiming emotional distress and damage to his professional reputation. The judge dismissed it in under 2 minutes. Last week, my mom sent me a screenshot from Facebook. Connor was at a charity gala, arm in arm with his new girlfriend, smiling like the star of his own personal PR campaign. My first reaction? Not jealousy, not sadness, not rage, just pure bone-deep relief. Relief that he's someone else's problem now. Relief that I never again have to wonder if a compliment is sincere or if a touch is calculated. Relief that I'm not performing in a relationship built on smoke and mirrors. The money wife is dead. Long live just plain Natalie. Oh, and remember the second phone I found? The one with all the cryptic texts to D? Turns out D stood for Denise, Connor's ex-girlfriend from college. Apparently she reached out to him 6 months after our wedding, and they'd been in contact ever since. The entire time we were married, he was sending her money, promising her that they'd be together once the plan was complete. The plan, me, my family, my name, my money. He thought he could play us all, and now he's alone. I'm free. And Denise? Well, good luck to her. As for me, I'm building something real now, on my own terms. No performance, no scripts, no masks, just Natalie. And that's more than enough. She attached screenshots of their conversations as proof, pages and pages of them. There it was, in black and white. Connor, scheming behind my back with Denise the entire time we were married. One message in particular stood out. He told her, the vow renewal is the last hurdle. After that, we move to phase 2. Phase 2. Like our life together had been some kind of business deal, a heist, a countdown. And the most shocking part, I didn't even feel angry, not anymore. I just felt sorry for her, because she actually believes she's different, that she's special, that she's the one he truly loves, that he wouldn't do to her what he did to me. So I sent her one message, just one. Good luck, you'll need it. Edit. A lot of people have asked if I'm still in contact with Connor's family. The short answer is, not really. His parents did reach out after everything came to light. They were horrified, genuinely. They apologized profusely, said they had no idea, said they were ashamed, embarrassed. We exchanged polite holiday cards this past season. That's it. And honestly, that's all it'll ever be. Some connections, no matter how polite, how well-intentioned, just aren't worth maintaining.